Stewart-Haas loses another sponsor, and Tyler Reddick says it would take an ungodly amount of horsepower to actually make the racing any better. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. It may be the off season, but Stewart-Haas Racing is still taking on water. We've known for months that Busch Beer was leaving the team to join Ross Chastain and Trackhouse. A few weeks ago, when Eric Almirola confirmed he wouldn't be back full-time, Smithfield Foods also confirmed their exit. Two major primary sponsors leaving the team now add Hunt Brothers Pizza to the list. Now, Hunt Brothers Pizza, not as big, not a primary sponsor like Smithfield, like Busch Beer, but still significant nonetheless. Yesterday, Hunt Brothers Pizza announced a new partnership with Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, and Team Penske. It's a multi-year deal. They will be the primary sponsor for Joey Logano in select races. They'll have an associate sponsorship deal with Ryan Blaney. In some of these photos, they seem to be teasing maybe a more red primary scheme, which could be nice. I'm not a huge fan of the plain green Hunt Brothers cars Harvick has driven in recent years, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. Losing Hunt Brothers Pizza, not nearly as big a deal as losing Smithfield Busch Beer. I'm talking about Stewart-Haas Racing once again. We all know that sponsorship buys speed, and unfortunately Stewart-Haas Racing is lacking in both at the moment. What makes this interesting though is Hunt Brothers Pizza has always been linked to KHI, Kevin Harvick's management company, or at least that's how it's appeared. I don't exactly know what their contracts have looked like in the past, but we've seen Hunt Brothers on Harvick's cars. They've been on Ryan Preece's truck the past couple of years. He's a KHI client. Neither Joey Logano nor Ryan Blaney are KHI clients, at least from what I can find, unless they're going to announce something in the near future. So that's what makes this a bit surprising, but good pickup for Team Penske and another sponsorship loss for Stewart-Haas Racing. My theory as to why they haven't announced Noah Gragson to the 10 just yet is because Stewart-Haas Racing needs to make 1,000% sure that all sponsorship is buttoned up. No disrespect to Noah Gragson, he's a fine young driver, probably cheap, affordable compared to most others, but the number one reason he's a candidate for the Stewart-Haas Racing number 10 is because supposedly he brings some sponsorship. If he didn't bring that sponsorship, he would not have a shot at landing this ride. Guess what? Matt DiBenedetto's cheap as well. He's made the Cup Series playoffs, but he doesn't bring sponsorship supposedly like Noah Gragson likely does. I don't think this is a PR thing where SHR is going to wait and announce Gragson when nobody's looking to avoid any potential blowback. I don't think that's a thing whatsoever. I just think they want to make sure all their sponsorship is signed on before they commit to Noah Gragson. That's just my theory. Anyway, let's move on. Grant Enfinger has a new home. He's joining Cody Rohrbaugh in CR7 Motorsports. Enfinger will drive the number 9 truck in 2024. A couple interesting details. Jeff Stankiewicz will be joining Grant Enfinger. He will serve as crew chief. The two worked together in the ARCA Menard Series nearly a decade ago. They won the 2015 championship together. Stankiewicz is a solid crew chief. He's won Truck Series races in recent years with Sheldon Creed. He's effectively been glued to Sheldon Creed's hip the past few years in trucks, Xfinity, but with Creed moving over to Toyota, keeping Stankiewicz with Chevy, pairing him up with a familiar face in Grant Enfinger makes a ton of sense. That could lead to a ton of success. CR7 Motorsports also announced a new technical alliance with it's McNally Hilgeman Racing, MHR. I see MHR and I think Mike Harmon Racing at first glance, but I don't know, McAnally. The MHR 19 truck with Christian Eckes this past year was very successful, so hopefully CR7 Motorsports will have some pretty fast trucks. It sounds like they're making some serious investments this year, looking to improve. Signing Grant Enfinger, a veteran fresh off his second Championship 4 appearance, is a great choice. And Stankiewicz, veteran crew chief, they've had success together. This all makes a ton of sense and I think will lead to CR7, the 9 truck, probably having its best year to date. Great to see a Truck Series team making strides to be more competitive. We'll need more teams like that to fill some of the gap left by GMS, who of course is shutting down. That's why Grant Enfinger needed to find a new ride. So good luck to CR7 and Grant Enfinger. Now let's talk horsepower. It seems like around this time every year during off-season testing, we're talking horsepower. 2 years ago, all that horsepower talk actually led to change. Around this time, NASCAR went from running 550 in the next gen to 670 at all intermediate tracks. This offseason, I think fans and drivers by and large are trying to talk NASCAR into much of the same change, but for the short tracks, which also currently runs 670, many are asking for at least 750 or more. NASCAR President Steve Phelps made it clear a couple weeks ago that they're not looking at increasing the horsepower, saying that increasing horsepower is expensive and may not actually make a difference in the on-track product. But now this week, Senior VP of ECR Engines Bob Fisher appeared on SiriusXM NASCAR radio and appeared to push back against this, it's too expensive argument.
If they wanted us to bump this power level up to, say, 750 horsepower, wouldn't be a huge tear up for the engine companies. We already have a package that we used to run engines multiple races with the seals on, and would feel quite comfortable doing that. They don't really want to talk about it. They haven't really asked much of the engine companies. I know when they have asked us, we haven't been against it by any stretch of imagination. And I think that we could give these drivers more horsepower with an engine package that has already been validated to run, more than one race at a 750 horsepower level.
For what it's worth, I saw Kevin Harvick reply to this post on X and seemed to be applauding Bob Fisher's statements. Right there, we've got a quote from an engine builder in NASCAR saying it would not be expensive to increase the horsepower at least a little bit. Get back to that 750 number we were at pre-next gen, at least on the short tracks and road courses. It is worth pointing out this is just one company saying this. There are 4 companies, I believe, that build engines for NASCAR Cup Series teams. There's ECR and Hendrick, who build for Chevy. There's Toyota Racing Development, obviously for Toyota. And then Yates or Roush Yates builds for Ford. ECR is in favor of upping the horsepower a bit. We don't know for sure if the other companies would say the same thing, but more than likely they would. But now that we know it is possible to up the horsepower to 750, the next question is, will that be enough to make a difference? And for what it's worth, Tyler Reddick, NASCAR Cup Series driver, doesn't think so. Reddick was on the latest podcast episode of Door Bumper Clear. I'll link the full episode down below. But Reddick believes it would take far more than just 750 horsepower to actually make a difference. Here's what he said.
A couple months ago, just for fun, asked some of the guys at 23, let's just, there was a weird knob we could kind of work on to just basically increase the power of the car by, 150 horsepower. Didn't really change much. I mean, we're talking the amount of off-throttle time was reduced very little. I think you need to be above 1,000 horsepower to
I think that's the thing.
Really
I think that
move that needle, and that's a
big jump.
Now, just as I qualified the ECR statement, saying that's just one company saying that, I will also qualify Reddick's statement here. He's talking about sim, and I know these expensive team simulators are very accurate about most things, but they're obviously not 100% correct. So Reddick's experience is purely based off sim time. That means something for sure, but is it the most accurate way to test? Absolutely not. And I guess that's my first conclusion after hearing both of these quotes. Let's go test 750 horsepower. I have no idea why they didn't just rip the tapered spacer off or bring a different tapered spacer at Phoenix a couple weeks ago and just make some laps with 750. What's the harm in at least testing it? At least you can say you tried. If the drivers get out and say, yep, didn't really make much of a difference, at least you'll know. You'll have that data. You'll have that baseline. But they haven't tested it with this new car. I don't understand the apprehension there. So that's my first conclusion. Let's just go test 750. Let's confirm that whatever Reddick felt or didn't feel in the sim, let's go confirm that that is in fact reality. But my second conclusion is that we can finally admit trying to build a one-size-fits-all race car for a wide variety of racetracks was never really a good idea. It's too early to say the next-gen car is a failure or a bust or anything like that because, as we've discussed, the true success of the next-gen car long-term is do more teams enter the sport? Does a new manufacturer enter the sport? That is what will determine whether the next-gen car was truly successful. But these first 2 years, just watching the racing on track, it feels like NASCAR completely missed the mark. They wanted to build a sports car that would handle better at short tracks and road courses. They broke the first rule of stock car racing. No, not Landon Castle's rule about wrecking someone without wrecking yourself. No, the rule that great stock car racing, the best racing to watch, is when the cars and drivers are uncomfortable. These are sports cars, road course cars. They're uncomfortable at intermediates and super speedways. The racing has been great at those types of tracks the past 2 years. But the previous generation of car, the Gen 6, was uncomfortable in tight short track conditions, road course conditions. Those races were great. We flip-flopped these past couple years because NASCAR was insistent on building a one-size-fits-all car to help save the teams money. Long term, I should add, and we're just seeing firsthand how impossible that truly is. Putting 1,000 or more horsepower in these cars is unrealistic, I think, at least in the near future. So I guess my final conclusion is going forward, what can be changed? I think we have to look at the tires. Goodyear needs to continue to experiment. If there was a way to go back to the old, Gen 6 sized tires, smaller in diameter, not quite as wide, I think these cars would race better at short tracks and road courses tomorrow. But making that change is not realistic. Changing the size of the tires would likely force a near entire redesign of the next gen car, and I don't imagine that's in the budget right now. So kind of a roller coaster here. You hear ECR say we can up the horsepower without much cost, then let's do it. That's exciting. Only to hear Tyler Reddick say, yeah, but it won't actually make a difference. That's kind of disappointing, but I guess we won't actually know until we try outside of the sim. So back to my first conclusion, why are we not testing it? Just to say we did, just to have that data. Doesn't make any sense to me, quite honestly, but I'm not the expert here, I suppose. You guys are. So let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Where all the experts typically reside on social media. That is going to do it for this episode, y'all. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. We talk NASCAR all year long. And a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters as well for your continued and very generous support of the show. I will see you again very soon. Have a wonderful rest of your day, folks. Thanks again for tuning in.